I'm curious, like, to go back to this idea that, okay, there are pathogenic bacteria that we want to get rid of as soon as we can when they enter our body. But as you mentioned, there's many, many species of bacteria that are helping us, that are neutral. They're very abundant. They're constantly there. They're constantly presumably bumping into dendritic cells, and yet they don't elicit an immune response. What can you say about that? Things like the gut microbiome. How is it that we have this whole sort of ecosystem of bacteria in our bodies that are sort of supposed to be there in some sense, and yet they're not triggering an immune response?
Yeah, so one of the things that was sort of glossed over is that we talk about eliciting an immune response or not eliciting an immune response. In fact, that's not really the decision that's made in the great majority of cases. There's a huge element that has to do with the quality of the immune response. So immune responses come in multiple flavors. And the commensal bacteria for a long time were thought to just be ignored. You know, they're not really doing any damage. Dendritic cells are aware perhaps of their presence, but they're not really, they're peacefully coexisting. And we have this sort of immune ignorance of this large burden of bacteria. That turns out not to be quite correct. And in fact, it is apparent that dendritic cells are constantly sampling those commensal bacteria and actually showing them to T cells and B cells and eliciting a response.